And here's the first thing that we have that I'm not happy with, and that's the cushions that we bought. These things off of Amazon, they were the proper length that I needed, which is kind of odd. This side's 42 inches, and the other side behind me now is 52 inches. These are meant for like porch swings and that kind of thing. And they advertise that they're 5 inches thick. And if you looked at the photos, they look very plush and thick. And they're kind of a light gray, which is kind of the color scheme here. We've got the white uppers and the light gray lowers. We didn't want a lot of color in here. I'm trying to keep it simple. Makes it feel roomy and nice. My wife's slightly claustrophobic and was afraid that she wouldn't like the trailer, but she loves it. The colors have worked really well in that aspect, I think. But these cushions leave a lot to be desired. So we've lived with them. I put some foam underneath them just to save your butt. But yeah, got to come up with a better plan for those who haven't decided what that is yet. Moving on next, we've got, and of course I got it open, but this is a Bouge RV freezer, refrigerator, and of course we've got the covers for them that are insulated. These things work great, real happy with them. They're 53 quarts each. I've got two of them. The one on this side, this is the freezer. And in this compartment is the refrigerator. Just the way they make them, that's not kept as cold as this area. So we've got freezer and some refrigerator space right there on this side. And then over here, this one we use as a refrigerator. And then that space right there is really not cold enough to be a refrigerator, but we put things in there that we don't want to get warm. So things like some chocolate things or something that, it's just better to keep it cool. And so that's a perfect location for it. So refrigerator, freezer, and they maximum power draw is 60 watts each. So if they're both on, we're pulling 120 watts. They don't run that often. I'm guesstimating approximately half the time. So 50% of the time. So 12 hours a day they're on, 12 hours a day they're not. So far, been pretty happy with them. I can't really complain. This one is the older of the two. This one we bought for the car trailer, going the racetracks and stuff. So it's a couple years older. It's just they made some subtle changes between them, like the display. Like this one doesn't show if it's on Celsius or Fahrenheit. Features like that. And this one also, the display is very touchy. So if you'll set something over there, sometimes you'll hear the thing go beep, and it'll be changing the temperature because you accidentally touched it. But beyond that, it's worked fine. No problems. Coming in from the freezer, we've got a storage area, so that's a storage box. Next we have the EcoFlow Wave 2, and it's mounted out of the Wave 1 so that you can get to all the controls, and the other is because the tubes come out the back and then they're vented out the back of the trailer. Check some previous videos for all the details on that. And this cover removes so you can get to things real easy if you want to. Alright, so I mentioned an idiosyncrasy in cooling our trailer where, if you open the bathroom vent and turn on the fan on low, it's a night and day difference on how this air conditioning will perform. And we've been over 100 degree temperatures. Now let me talk about the heat. We have used the heat. We've only been as low as 38 degrees outside temperature. But we don't plan on going much colder than that. But I got to say it worked fine. But there's some idiosyncrasies again. One is, and we learned this when we did our first test of the EcoFlow Wave 2 back before we'd ever taken it on the road, when it was in the shop, and we did a heat test. And we put it on max heat. Well, let me tell you, don't do that. We only use low heat, and it heats this trailer quickly. We've had the trailer down to 50 degrees overnight before, because we don't typically run the heater at night, and so it took it from 50 up to 74 degrees in maybe 15 minutes at the most. I mean, it heats up this trailer quick. We're very happy with the performance, both heating and cooling. But, like I said, there's a caveat there. Don't use the max heat. What seems to be the issue with the max heat is that that compressor is running at a maximum, and the coils seem to freeze up. And so what happens when it senses that the coils are frozen, it goes into a defrost mode. And when it goes into defrost mode, it quits pumping out heat. So it defrosts the coils, and then because of the defrost, you have all this condensation that is now, melted and is in the reservoir, the bottom of the thing, and it pumps that out. So there's a time that it takes all this, that it's not pumping any heat out, it's going through all these other activities, and of course it's using power while it's doing that, so you're not getting a heat return on that investment. And then it kicks the heat back on again, and it ramps back up, and overall it heats much, much slower on maximum heat. If you put it on low, it heats well. It just all it does is crank out heat. Boom, cranks out heat. And if the reservoir gets full, it doesn't quit heating. It just pumps out the reservoir, drains it automatically. We did go a few days where we ran this thing 24/7. Not that we really needed to stay comfortable, but I just wanted to see how the thing would perform. And it did. It performed well. Another thing that's nice is the app, where, at night the bed comes down, and that's why you saw on the tops of these cabinets I had some little foam on there, is the bed comes down and sits right on top of those cabinets. And the heater, you'd have to crawl underneath the bed to activate the heater controls. Well, I can do it from bed with my phone. You can do it from anywhere with your phone. And so it's just a nice, option to have, that I never use the buttons on top of the thing. I use the phone app. And it's easy to use, works very well even for an old guy like me. The reason I removed the cover in the center there was to show you the intake and exhaust for the unit. So you have the intake right here. This is for the interior portion, and then that's the outflow or exhaust here. But for the compressor unit and everything, you have an intake which is out the back of this thing. So the intake comes in, and then this top one is the exhaust. Well, of course, the intake is going to be whatever your ambient air temperature is outside. That's what the intake air. Don't really have a real big problem with that. It'd be nice if that one was insulated also, but definitely the exhaust tube should be an insulated tube, because when you're heating, that's cold air that's being exhausted out, and that thing, that's a lot of cold air that's just emanating from that thin plastic hose. And so it really should be insulated. What I did on our last trip is I took some microfiber towels and wrapped it and that kept that from having moisture on it from condensation, and kept it from exchanging that cold tube to the air inside the trailer. Yeah, it helps a little bit that we've got it kind of recessed back in that corner with the cover on it, but no, I'm going to come up with some way to insulate those two tubes, the intake and the exhaust. But when you're heating the inside, that exhaust gets cold, and when you cool the inside, that exhaust gets hot, which is counter to what you're trying to do inside the trailer. And so that's one shortcoming I see with this. Like I said, there's some idiosyncrasies with the setup that I've learned, and those are easy to work around, and if you do so, very happy with the results. But that's something that I think that EcoFlow needs to fix, is provide insulated tubes. Another thing that I did, and let me move in closer to show you, is I put tape around this plastic manifold here that just clicks on for the exhaust here, because it exhausts out the top, and they have this plastic piece that clips on, and then this hose connects to that. And so it's not that great a fit, so it's blowing, like I said, if you're trying to heat the inside, it's blowing cold air out through these the seam here, this mating point, and of course you're trying to cool it, it's blowing hot air out there. So I took some Gorilla Tape, put it on there, problem solved. But again, it'd be nice if all of this was insulated. All right, some additional observations and comments regarding EcoFlow Wave 2. I purchased it with the, I think they call it an add-on battery, and you can see it just clips onto the base. I mean, it's a nice setup and everything, but it's about, it's a third of the total weight of this unit probably. And it has some USB power ports on it and so forth, and it's got some indicator lights here and an on-off button. I really have not used the battery, and probably never will. I don't know. I mean, there's been a scenario where I did use it, but it's not a real big deal. But let me tell you the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying. So it has, different inputs. I believe there's 4 charging methods. You can charge it with a car charger. Well, not in this situation. Well, I mean, I could hook it up to a 12-volt power source. I've got a 12-volt power port right underneath the bench over here on the door side of the trailer. So that's an option. You can charge it from solar, but I've already got solar charging my main battery pack, and so anyway, or AC hooked up. So that's how I have it. I have it plugged in, and on the side here, there's the plug, and it goes back, and then there's a plug over beside the freezer over there that I plug this into. And so if we're going to use the EcoFlow Wave 2, I flip the circuit breaker in my electrical cabinet, flip the one that's marked AC, I think. I flip that switch, and that sends power to the EcoFlow Wave 2. When you do that, the thing automatically comes on. And I've already got it set to whatever temperature I want, and flip that switch, it comes on. Well, here's the observation and bottom line for me, is that when I do that, the maximum draw is 700 watts. If you run off the add-on battery and then you go to charge the battery, it draws over 1,000 watts. And I forget the exact number now, but it draws quite a bit of power. And that's because it's charging that battery quickly, and it takes more to charge that battery quickly than it does just to run the heating or cooling. So that means there's a greater load on my inverter. And so it's actually, in my mind, more practical to just run it off the AC. And so the one time we used the battery, we were meal prepping, and it was a cold morning. So we had the heat on, we had the microwave running, we've got the water heater on, because we're going to be doing dishes. And so a bunch of appliances were on or could be on. The induction cooktop, the microwave, and the water heater, for instance. And depending on what's on when, we could be getting, to where we're going to max out that 3,000 watt inverter. So to ensure that that didn't happen, what I did is I ran the heat off of the add-on battery. So that's not part of the equation anymore. I don't have to worry about that. Like I said, I don't remember, 1,700 watts or 1,200 watts or 1,000 watts. I don't remember what it was. It was over 1,000 watts. That much I remember. So anyway, that it was just the one scenario where I use that. But normally we just use the inverter to run the heating and cooling. It seems to be fine that way. That seems to be the most efficient way, and so that's the way I've used it. Another little idiosyncrasy is that when you turn off the AC power to the unit with this add-on battery on there, you shut off the power, but the battery stays on. So then I have to press the little button right there. You just press and hold it, and the battery pack shuts off. So that's the ins and outs of the EcoFlow Wave 2 as far as my usage has been. Like I said, overall, I love it. It's just the right size for this trailer. I think if you were to have a larger trailer, it wouldn't be sufficient. But for this trailer, I don't want to say it's been more than sufficient. It has been sufficient. I mean, we haven't, it doesn't not do the job or doesn't take too long to do the job. It's just been just what you wanted. It's just been perfect. But it's a small trailer. I forget what the square footage is, but it's, basically an 8x17 trailer. And like I said, by using vents, by covering windows, whatever, you can make things easier on yourself and easier on your heating and cooling.